Another day, another project. Okay, so I was last week going to make a video about my two-stroke bikes. Mainly my red one, which was the first one I put together. And it was just going to be a video talking about the advantages of them, comparing them maybe to some of the things I know about the electric bikes, and just talking about their general reliability. And of course, because I got my camera out and opened my big fat mouth, started talking about how great they are, I had a massive failure. They went something like this. Well, that was fun. All out on a ride.
This is the whole thing that comes with, probably?
Yep. This locked up. This loosened up. And my engine came to a sudden halt. Also, that. Off. There's pieces of woodruff key all over the place in here. My key. And the shaft does not look happy. I think it'll work, but man, that's ugly. And it's really a shame because, well, you know, there wasn't really anything wrong with this motor. It was running great up until this guy gave up. It didn't really give up so much as just loosened up, and that's incredibly stupid. And that failure resulted in some pretty bad damage, unfortunately. So basically, this little Magneto wheel here, the nut that holds it onto the crankshaft had loosened up, and that allowed for some play travel and the momentum and everything, threw it all over the place. And it ended up getting lodged against the rest of the Magneto, which caused it to lock up like it did in the video there. That was just a crappy day. I also ruined a nice pair of pants because I don't have the chain guard on my bike, and that's just because I'm always adjusting this and not fully set on its location, so I never really felt like putting that guard on there. So while I was pedaling the bike, I also got caught by the chain earlier. Real pain. It'll pull me up absolutely by itself. Oh. Hang on a second. Pant leg got caught in the motor there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. You'll have to excuse me a second. My pants have become part of my chain. Yeesh-boo. Uh-oh. That's not good. I'm stuck. Wow. Well, good thing they were ruined pants. Gosh darn, man, that sucks. So anyway, the parts aren't really a big deal. They've apparently arrived in the mail already. I gotta go pick them up. But unfortunately, this isn't gonna be just a wham bam thank you man situation. We have to also figure out a fix for this crankshaft because it got wallowed. When this thing got dislodged, the key went ahead and put a big old mash in the crankshaft. I'll go ahead and show you guys here in a second. It may be slightly hard to tell, but this has been mashed inward a little bit, wallowed, so to speak, by the key. So what we're going to do, rather than take the whole engine apart to replace a relatively in good shape crank that just now has this little problem, we're going to go ahead and trust on good old JB weld. I'm going to go take one of my new moon keys there, my new woodruff keys, and just glue it into the crankshaft, slide the new Magneto in place, Loctite the crap out of this because apparently at certain vibrations that is a problem. So that's basically my advice in this video. If you have one of these engines, let it sit for a day and then we'll go ahead and try it out. I'm sure it'll probably be okay. Really sucks because I love this is my first bike, and I've grown pretty attached to it. We've got almost, I think I've got about 503, 504 miles on it. This isn't fully accurate. This is also kilometers, so, but altogether I've kept track on the miles, and I'm somewhere in the ballpark of like 503 miles traveled on this thing, and this is the first failure. And honestly, it doesn't even feel like a real failure, just kind of a circumstantial thing. I guess I should have took off the case and, you know, maybe tighten things down a little bit, make sure it's tight. So for those of you out there getting into this hobby or thinking about it, one thing I will say is periodically you want to go around and just make sure things are tight. Make sure these are tightened, make sure this is tightened, especially the exhaust. You know, just go around and make sure that things are still where they belong. If you're running the suicide tensioner here, make sure it's tight. I've got the worst example of it on this bike. It is done well, but basically they make a double and then they make this guy. And well, you can kind of imagine what happens with gravity and force when these loosen up. If they loosen up, go right into your spokes. There goes your tire, there goes your day. Bad accident, no good. It's better to try and locate the engine somewhere that you don't even need one of these, or to run one of those special, you know, they've got several different styles, and they got one that bolts from here to here. That's a good idea. I've had a relatively successful time with this engine, minus this failure. I will say that for the price of these engines and for how economical they are, totally worth it. On this bike, I've gone about 50 miles on this lawnmower tank with this 44 standard sprocket. On the silver bike, I've actually managed to travel up to 60 miles, still had gas in the tank. I'm convinced that it could do almost 100 miles, and that tank's about a half gallon, maybe just a little over. It's like a 2-liter tank. Yeah, great motors. This guy, it's a slightly taller tire, and I've got the smaller sprocket down there. I've got the smallest one you can get. I forget if it's 36 or 32, but it's not the best on hills. It will go up them, just not with a lot of super power. But as far as on a flat, man, that thing just purrs along. You know, once you get it up to that RPM range that it likes, smooth. And on top of that, fuel economy, it's not even a concern. So I really like these bikes. I'm a pretty big, you know, shill for these bikes, I will admit. But anyway, I gotta stop rambling and go get my parts out of the mailbox there. Because apparently they've arrived. So don't quote me on the prices. And the reason this came in 3 separate packages is because I was dumb and kept adding things to the list and hitting buy now. So it's kind of funny. These guys literally that's all from the same shop. They put them in separate packages. I don't know, maybe they think I'm a middleman. But anyway, I think the case cover, I bought a new cover. I didn't have to, but mine got cracked, got pushed out, and I didn't like that. So I went ahead and bought another one. I don't know if I'm going to use it right away, but I have it. I think that was like $7. The Magneto itself was about $7 or $8. I can't remember. And then after tax, of course. And the Woodruff keys would be the most expensive item. It was like $4.28 for 4 keys. And they're tiny. I mean, these are like 30, 40 cent keys at Ace Hardware. But the trouble is, Ace did not have this specific size for this. They had one that fit, but it would have needed to be filed down a little bit. I bought it anyway, just in case. You know, but... So yeah, you're looking at like what? 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe like $3 more for tax and shipping. About $20 in parts. The biggest deal is just going to be repairing this crankshaft. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab our brake cleaner. Just wipe a little bit in here with a blue towel because it's greasy. JB Weld doesn't like to stick to grease very well. So we want to give this as much of a chance as possible to work here. So we're going to go ahead and basically utilize the JB Weld as an extension of the key. Some people would say this is a real half-ass fix. I don't think so. I've seen it work on cars. I've seen people take Suzuki Samurais and glue in keys with JB Weld for the same problem. That's a 3-cylinder engine. This is just a dinky 1-cylinder engine. So I think we're going to get lucky with it. And as long as the wheel long as the JB weld in the wheel, you know, basically as long as the JB weld holds shape and doesn't crumble apart, it doesn't have anywhere it can go. So I think it'll just act like a Woodruff key extension. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started now. From the makers of Parts Cleaner 1, it's Breaking Parts Cleaner 2 non-chlorinated heavy-duty commercial. Probably don't need much. Okay, so one of the things I want to say about these bikes, I'll let that soak in, is if you're thinking about getting one, obviously you need to be a little bit mechanically inclined because every bike frame is different and you got to make sure you have enough clearance. This one just barely had enough, and I mean just barely. The carburetor throttle here has never really been happy. I probably should find if there's one or take one off of like a CB. Maybe I can go on eBay and find me a CB one that runs out at an angle here. This guy, I know they have those on those bikes because this is kind of crappy, but it's put up with it for 500 miles, so eh. But yeah, you definitely want to be mechanically inclined. Sometimes these kits come with problems. This specific one here that I bought had a compromised gas tank. There was, at the seams of the teardrop tank, we had a leak. We actually had two. We had a bad weld here, and we had a leak up here on my other tank. And it's floating around in here in one of my boxes. I actually never threw it away. I probably could fix it, honestly. It's not that bad, but whatever. I don't feel like welding into a gas tank that I dumped gas into, if you know what I mean. I think by now, though, it's probably been enough. But you end up having to get kind of creative, is what I'm getting at here. And this is one example. We went ahead and just found this cheap lawnmower tank. It's about the exact same capacity. Went ahead and I wanted a bike shelf for this bike anyway, for carrying extra gas or delivery stuff, whatever. So this worked out pretty well. You know, we went ahead and took a Simpson bracket and just kind of half-assedly bent it into there, and it works. It could be improved. There's actually a bike shelf that has a gas tank that you can buy off BikeBerry. Other things that we've had to do to make this engine work for this bike, you may notice how ugly my exhaust pipe is. That's because when we mounted this engine up, this pipe collided. Now, you can buy an aftermarket exhaust system. There's a couple different ones you can buy. You can buy one that's a solid pipe that comes down to here and funnels up into your kidney bean, kind of like, you know, a real two-stroke engine would have. Or you can buy the flex braided line, which you can run up to here, or down to here. It's literally a flexible piece of pipe, kind of looks like plumbing, kind of like a riser tube on a toilet. And it runs back, and I think some of them come with a canister that you can mount. And at that point, you're basically making your own mounts. You can do that. Or you can do what we did, which we don't have a proper bender, so we just, you know, hammer, vise, swear words, and time, made ourselves a little bit of an S-bend here. It could have been much nicer, I admit. But at this point, I was so pissed off about the busted gas tank and the engine not mounting up to the frame right, I just wanted it done. And I'll be honest with you, it works. They forgot in my kit, there's supposed to be a mount that wraps around this pipe, and then you can attach it to the frame. It's kind of a pre-cut length, so chintzy metal, so you can rebend it however you need to and use self-taps or whatever to get it to work. You absolutely do need to secure this pipe if you're running this type of exhaust, because what will happen is this engine within 5 to 10 miles will vibrate these right out, and it can cause damage to the jug. You know, you end up having to helicoil a bigger set in there because all the weight was being put on just these two little guys here. I went ahead and ran 6-sided bolts into mine. They're supposed to come with hex, but my kit was missing these too. So I went to Ace Hardware, found the correct thread, and away we go. This was my half-ass fix. Ugly old hose clamp. And to be honest with you, it worked quite well. It does work. I did it on that bike too, because we had the similar situation. They shorted me the mount once again in that kit, but at least that one came with a good gas tank. So yeah, you'll end up having to find your way around certain hurdles that come along with the kit. Sometimes they give you they short you a fuel line or give you a bad coil. This is the original spark plug, which I've been told by many people to get rid of, but so far, 500 miles. The boot, however, plastic boot, was cracked into pieces. I ended up gluing it back together with JB Weld and a little bit of duct tape. That was right out of the kit, and so far we've gone this far on it. So again, you do need to be a little bit mechanically inclined and a little bit confident in your skill level, because there are going to be some things you'll have to do. I'm running the old 9 bolt and 2 moon clamp style on this, and so far my rim has held up. It's withstood it, but I did have one spoke break recently, though I don't think it's from torquing. I'm pretty sure it was from hitting a bump, because it's on the cassette side, the pedal side, not on the engine side. So unfortunately this rim is pretty bumpy down the road now. I did try to remove my cassette. I actually have the proper tool for taking it off, but it's not working with me. I started to strip my tool. So, good thing I've got a couple extra rims on the wall there. I may pick one out and go ahead and marry this bike to a new rim. I don't know though. There's a lot of other options I could do. I might just have enough frame real estate, maybe, to go with a much fatter tire. And from what I understand, that's definitely something that a lot of people like to do with these bikes. Fatter tires make it all the more fun. Make it seem more like a dirt bike. And anyway, let's go ahead and wipe this stuff off. I think we penetrated the oil enough. Probably put another layer or 2 on there. Yep, everything looks to be about right. Those are definitely the right key. It's a real shame that my cover got busted. I really didn't need to replace it, I suppose, but, you know, I figured I might as well get it while I can. And it wasn't that expensive. So here's the big deal. You can see right here that this key is not going to serve its purpose correctly. That big chunk being forced down into the soft steel there of this crank is definitely going to create a problem. However, I think JB Weld can help us solve this problem. Luckily, this Magneto is not all that heavy, so, you know, as long as it is held in place where it needs to be, it should work. I must admit, it's ugly, but I just feel so bad having to take apart the entire engine for one tiny little mar. I mean, come on, you know? The based JB Welder. Yep. That looks about right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let the JB Weld set up here, glue the key in place, because I'm getting the classic moon key shuffle, and it's even worse since the crankshaft's got that wallow in it. I cannot get it to work with me right now, so we're just going to go ahead and let this stuff set up and utilize the JB Weld as a means to keep the key in place. I have a very slight taper. I've kind of forced it just ever so slightly so that the front is lower in the crescent versus the back. And hopefully it'll work. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with that. It tends to be that you want the key to sort of level itself out as you push the flywheel Magneto on there. But it's just not working with me, so we're going to go ahead and try the other method here. A little bit of a 2-part glue, I think. Not my prettiest work, but I got it to go on there. That damn moon key was doing the classic moon key shuffle, and then of course with the wallow on the crank, it wanted to go into that channel. So I've gone ahead and turned the wheel as solidly as I can against the part that is solid of the crank. I've packed some JB Weld in there, so basically the JB Weld is going to be doing the blunt of the work. That and the lock washer and nut. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those two down now and let this set up for a day, and fingers crossed, man. Hopefully I got the timing in the right place, and hopefully it'll hold. Okay, normally you would put that stuff on first, but I had a little bit of thread sticking out there. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be fighting with this thing on the way down or not. There's also some JB weld on the back side on the threads here, so the JB weld and this blue thread locker should work together, you know. But now we're just going to go ahead and let everything here set up. I don't know if I'm going to test it this evening or wait a full 24 hours. Probably should do the 24 hours because we want to give this thing every bit of chance it has. I did go ahead and put this thing up in the air, my back tire. I had it up in the air, gave it some spins with the spark plug out, and we did have spark. Just don't know if it's exactly where it's supposed to be or not. Time will tell on that one, our test drive. Well, it runs. Alright, looks like I got it. I actually ended up having to take everything off and redoing it a second time because it wasn't running. It's that crucial. But it's working. So now we're just gonna tighten the crap out of this guy. Like, really tight. Super, 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 super tight. Oh, boy. Sorry y'all missed the ultimate reveal there. When I first wrote it down there, it wasn't working. So I kind of panicked and started working on it. And had to leave you guys with this lame reveal, but there you go. Yes, you can save your Wallowed Crank. Kinda. I don't know how reliable it's going to be, but it sure sounded nice. Of course. That's what I like about this engine. It sounds really nice. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I am breathing a sigh of relief.